Hello, it's 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English New Edition. For tonight headlines, we have the signing of an agreement between Djibouti and Ethiopia for the construction of a gas pipeline between the two countries. For the international scene, Donald Trump confirmed his emergency courses to finance a war. Welcome to our newsroom. The government of Djibouti, represented by the Minister of Energy in charge of natural resources, Mr. Younis Ali Gedi, proceeded yesterday in the late afternoon the signing of the intergovernmental agreement on the gas project between the Republic of Djibouti and the Federal Republic of Ethiopia. The signing marks a historic step in the progress of negotiations between the government of Djibouti and Ethiopia. The two stakeholders have in fact reached an agreement in principle to allow them to benefit from this project in an equitable way. The establishment of this project will enable the Republic of Djibouti to consolidate its positions as a regional energy hub and become a reference industrial hub in this part of the African continent in accordance with the wishes of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh.
Djibouti. So through this process, Ethiopia as well as Djibouti and the firm constructing this project will be benefiting a lot. Especially the government of Ethiopia will be creating several job opportunities, and our local firms will be also engaging in construction, and they will be also supplying construction materials.
For his part, the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, Younis Ali Gedi, has emphasized it in his speech that this agreement between the two countries will create jobs. He put highlight that this agreement that starts from the regions of Ogaden to the port, Damerjog will carry gas. This agreement reflects the relationship between our two countries, concluded the minister. Continuing his prospecting and evaluations tower for schools in the interior to the borders of the country, His Excellency Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud has just begun his towers in the region of Tajora. To this end, the first leg of the towers was reserved for the ecotourism villages of Dugum, where the population has reserved a particularly warm and good natural welcome in his trips. The minister was accompanied by his colleagues and of the decentralization, Mr. Hamadou Mohamed Aramisa, the prefect of the region, Abdul Malik Mohamed Benoita, and several senior executives of MENFOP and those of decentralizations. After Aguade Towers in this village is built in a model of success in integrated tourism, the minister had the honor to share in communions with the residents of Dugum, heartily lunches at the end of which he wanted to collect the grievance of his guests. They focused mainly on the need to provide their village with a school, to put an end to the rural exodus, and to allow their children to benefit from schooling close of their home. Finally, the minister and the local authorities agreed on the site of the new Dugum school. The National Unions of Djiboutian Women, in close collaboration with USAID, closed this morning a training workshop that lasted 4 days based on stigmatization, HIV/AIDS, and gender-based violence for the benefit of the many police officers. The goal is to fight or better counter these kinds of plagues that are constantly faced by women in our society. The ceremony was attended by UNFD Vice President Hasna Ahmed Bilil and the USAID representative. Several national police officers participated in this training workshop, which was held with the UNFD itself. For a part, the Vice President of UNFD, Ms. Hassan Ahmed Belil, welcomed the successful completions of this training and thanked USAID, which contributes enormously to improve the living conditions of our fellow citizens. The three-round conference of Supreme Court and African Constitutional Court was held today on Saturday in Cairo, Egypt. More than 125 presidents and members of the Supreme Court and 45 African countries took part in this conference. Our country was represented by the President of the Supreme Court, Abdi Ibrahim Absiye, and his Vice President, Abdi Ismail Hersi, and the Ambassador of Djibouti in Egypt, Mohamed Duhour Hersi. At this conference, an African constitutional legal platform will be launched on the Internet to allow the exchanges of experience and knowledge in the legal file between African countries. The ministry delegate to the Minister of Economy and Finance in charge of trade has closed a training workshop on trade facilitations, which is intended for technical members. This 2 days workshop was facilitated by mobilized international experts funded by European Union. The organizations of this training workshop by the Ministry of Trade is supported by the EU under the thematic tools trade come to the members of the technical committee are representatives of the different ministries and agencies concerned. The Director of Foreign Trade and Regional Integrations, Hassan Aden Shahem, has in his closing remarks to the workshop put forward the commitment that our countries must honor. He thanked the committee members for the interactions and the participations of the member in this workshop while asking for the realizations of this program. After the conclusions of the training workshop on trade facilitation, we gathered the impressions of the participants, including the international experts and the representative of the Ministry of Trade. As usual, the CDC of Wahled Daba has organized Saturday, February 16, 2019, a ceremony of delivery of certificate completions of training on computing, which is the 50th promotion. CDC management is continuing its work to revitalize the exchanges and meeting platform CDC. In this context, the CDC Wahled Daba closed today trainings in computer sciences that began 6 months ago. Indeed, these programs, which began in 2014, it is in its 15th edition this year. It should be noted that in accordance with the policy of the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, His Excellency Hassan Mohammed Kamil, each CDC is specialized in a very specific file, and therefore the CDC of Wahled Daba, which had already proved its worth in terms of computer training, has naturally become the CDC pilot in this file. The graduation ceremony attended by His Excellency Hassan Mohammed Kamil, Director of the CDC Ruqya Hassan, the head of the CDC Mr. Ahmed Ali, and the president of the RPP Annex for this 15th editions, 20 youngsters and 16 girls, boys were trained and thus obtained certificate. The primary objective is being to give them more luck in their economic insertions. The Djiboutian Football Federation has organized the opening of the returns of the national championship in the city of Ali Sabih at the Khaire Stadiums of Ali Sabih region between the Djibouti Telecom team against Asad Ude. The play between the champions teams and the vice champions did not miss the atmosphere on the stadium's Khaire. The first half did a draw 0-0. It was from the second half that teams opened the scoring with the were some past that the brilliant strikerist Mahdi Mohabe was lucky enough to score the first goals by the Maida defensive defenders would not have the control of the ball extinguishes the goal grid. Then 4 minutes after the university teams equalized following a quarrel by elders from strikers of the Maida team. Finally, the two teams made a draw of 1-1. For the international scene, Donald Trump confirms the use of the state of emergency. Donald Trump will use the state of emergency to finance the wall on the border between Mexico and the United States. The U.S. president said he would sign this Friday the decree implementing these devices and the budget compromise obtained in Congress between the Republican and Democrat to avoid a new shutdown. We need to get rid of drug gangs and these people, says Donald Trump. It is an invasion. We have an invasion of drug and criminal coming into our country. We have to stop, but it is very difficult to stop with a war. It will be very easy for the tenants of the White House. This exceptional procedure is today the last resource to honor his promises of campaigns in the perspectives of the presidential next year. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us.